Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Have you ever looked up to one man as your inspiration, a man you've never met? Today I'm going to be talking to you about Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. This topic is important because 26% of the world's population is Muslim. I'm qualified to talk about this topic because I've studied I've studied Christianity and Islam for the past 5 to 7 years, so I know well about these topics, about religious topics, So the central idea is to inform people about the founder of Islam, Muhammad. We'll discuss pre-Islamic Arabia, his life in Makkah, his life in Medina, his triumph, and his death. Before I begin, I need to give you a little bit of background information about Arabia before Islam. We're not going to go over that. Pre-Islamic Arabia was a rough land. The Arabs constantly used to fight one another. Arabia was divided. There were a bunch of Arab tribes, but there were 3 powerful Jewish tribes in Medina: the Banu Qaynuqa, the Banu Nadir, and the Banu Qurayza, which I'll get to later. The Arabs were barbaric people. The Romans and Persians didn't want to conquer them because they were just crazy. The Arabs used to abuse their women. They used to fight each other constantly. They used to bury their own daughters alive. And the Quran has a chapter about this. And the Arabs before Islam were described as savages and barbaric. So obviously Arabia was in crisis before Islam. It was divided, and the Arab tribes were constantly fighting while the Jews were left alone. The Arabs were also polytheistic. They used to worship more than one god. And they had a shrine, Kaaba, which there were 360 gods inside the shrine. So you've seen Arabia before Prophet Muhammad was born. Now Muhammad was born in April 570 years after Jesus. He was orphaned at a young age. He lost both his parents. And throughout his life, he was known as the Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. Because in Makkah, people used to cheat. People used to constantly cheat, and they were dishonest. But he was the only one who was constantly honest with his business dealings. So at the age of 25, he married Khadija, a wealthy woman. And at the age of 40, he used to get away from the evils of his people by going to a cave in Hijra. So one day when he was meditating in the cave, he had a vision of Angel Gabriel that said, Muhammad, you're a prophet of God. Say to your people that there's one God, and you are his final prophet. And as time went on, he received revelations from God, which is known as the Quran. So at first, Muhammad didn't want to preach to his people because he knew his people were barbaric and they weren't going to listen to him. But after 2 years, he went and he preached in Makkah. And this is where things got bad for him. Muhammad had only few people followed him because the disbelievers in Makkah used to tell the Prophet Muhammad, change the Quran. We don't like what it's saying. He said, no, I can't do that. Because the Quran's message was, Ahad, or La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, worship one God, worship one God, worship one God. Stop doing the evils you're doing. But the Makkans didn't want to do that. So after 13 years, he was constantly abused, ridiculed, and beaten. And he had only a few followers, maybe 100, some sources say 50, maybe some sources say 100. So he had very few followers who were willing to listen to him. So the persecution got so bad that one time the Meccan leaders decided that we need to kill Muhammad because he's leading our people away from our worship. So he escaped their assassination plots, and he went to a town called Medina, which hosted 3 Jewish tribes because he thought he would be safer there and avoid persecution. So he was forced to leave his town after an assassination attempt. So here we go to Medina. In Medina, there were 3 Jewish tribes, like I said. And the first thing the Prophet did when he went to Makkah or Medina was he signed a contract. And it was known as the Constitution of Medina. Interestingly, this is the first constitution. And the Constitution said that the Jews, Muslims, and Arabs were supposed to live in harmony and help one another. But unfortunately, the Jews broke the contract as time went on. And the Quran has a chapter on this, where the Quran says whenever the Jews make a treaty with the Muslims, they always break that contract. Quran chapter 2, verse 100. So in Medina, he couldn't live a peaceful life because there were he was under constant attack by the four people: the pagan Meccans, the Jewish tribes of Medina, the hypocrites of Medina, and the Arab tribes of Arabia. So the first we need to get into the conflict with the Jews. The first Jewish tribe that broke the contract or the constitution was the Banu Qanuqa, and the Banu Qanuqa broke the contract because one of their Jewish shopkeepers assaulted a Muslim woman. Now in the Middle East, if you attack a woman's honor, then you're going to get in trouble, and that's exactly what the Jews did. So the Muslim men immediately started attacking the Banu Qanuqa, and the Banu Qanuqa waged war on Muhammad. They said, Muhammad, you think that you can defeat us? We're better than you in fight. But interestingly, the Banu Qanuqa lost, and they were exiled away. And as their punishment, they were forced to leave Medina. The second Jewish tribe that broke the treaty was the Banu Nadir, and they tried to assassinate the Prophet Muhammad by taking a large stone and throwing it on his head. They also fought the Prophet, and they were exiled away from Medina. The third Jewish tribe that broke the treaty was the Banu Qurayza, which started collaborating with the Meccan Quraysh in order to get rid of Islam. But unfortunately, they didn't succeed, and they were punished. A man named Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, which is cited in Sahih Bukhari, pronounced the punishment on the Banu Qurayza. Their punishment was their men were killed and their women and children were sold in slavery. Now, it's not the Prophet Muhammad that ordered this punishment. It was a Muslim named Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. This is found in Sahih Bukhari. The last problems with the Jews were the Khaybar Jews. And what the Khaybar Jews used to go to Makkah and used to encourage the Arab tribes to get rid of Islam, because the Jews hated Islam. They wanted to destroy Islam and Muhammad completely. And that's why Muhammad and the Muslims invaded them, and they were told they were exiled away from Medina. Conflict with the Arab tribes. The Meccans when the Meccans kicked Muhammad and the Muslims out of Makkah, they stole their goods. And because of that, the Muslims went into war with the Meccans, and the Muslims won. And then the Battle of Uhud was the Meccans took revenge against the Prophet, and the Muslims lost. This is the only battle the Muslims lost. And the final two battles were the Battle of Mustalik, which an Arab tribe tried to defeat Islam, but they unfortunately they lost, and they were exiled away from Arabia. So after that, Muhammad wanted to go back to Mecca so he can practice his religion, Islam, but the Meccans wouldn't let him. Instead, they made a treaty. The Meccans made a treaty, and the Meccans broke that treaty by attacking a Muslim tribe they had alliance with. So after that, Prophet Muhammad and 10,000 Muslims marched into Mecca, and the Meccans gave up the Kaaba without a fight. And this was important because Prophet Muhammad forgave all the Meccans. He said, "Go, you're free. Even though you kicked me out of my town and you've caused a lot of problems for me, and you tried to assassinate me, you're free. You can go." So in the Kaaba, he destroyed 360 idols, and he made Mecca into a Muslim town. And this was a benevolent act from the Prophet because he could have killed all of them, but he forgave them instead. So after that, Arabia was united by because in the past Arabia was divided into Arab tribes. The Arab tribes were finally united under the banner of Islam. So you've seen the life of the Prophet Muhammad, from his birth, his life, to his death. Muhammad lived a great life. He was strong in his belief in one God. His many years of persecution in Makkah, his willingness to go years of persecution and beliefs, etc. If you study the life of Muhammad with the correct mindset, I guarantee you it will have a positive impact on you, just like Islam is mine. Thank you.